Yesterday I finished watching Ash vs. Evil Dead, and bravo. When I say I finished watching it, I mean I finished watching Season 3. I bought it on my Google Play. I've been a huge fan of the Evil Dead movies for a really long time. I think that Bruce Campbell is just genius. Like, he's a comedic genius. He's just a good actor in general. I have 2 of the books that he wrote. I don't know if he wrote more than that. I have If Chins to Kill, Confessions of a B-Movie Actor, and Make Love the Bruce Campbell Way. And the dude's he's just fucking great. You know, he doesn't take himself too seriously. I get the distinct impression he has, like, a really fun time doing what he does. And he was also in Bubba Hotep. That's its own video, because that was an amazing movie. And from the director of Phantasm. But I'm getting off topic here. Ash vs. Evil Dead, man. Beginning to end, I am just kind of blown away by this show. Because years later, like, let's see, Army of Darkness came out in 92. Ash vs. Evil Dead started in 2015, okay? So you're literally talking about like 20, right? 23 years later, they start this up, and it is like so on point. It actually helps the trilogy a little bit, because the trilogy sort of has some inconsistencies, sort of plot holes, not necessarily plot holes so much as like failing to mention certain things that happened in previous films, and this show kind of found a way to like get around that, including acknowledging Ash's sister, who shit happens in the first Evil Dead. And I mean, like, that's the last time you hear from her until Ash versus Evil Dead. And God, I'll be damned if they didn't get a fucking doppelganger that they cast as her. Like, holy shit. I don't know if it was her daughter or what, but, like, she looked exactly like the fucking girl from the first Evil Dead. It was insane. The humor is great. I would have thought that it would have gotten tired or, like, repetitious after a certain point. There are some periphery characters that get introduced that, could ruin things. Generally, when they decide to make like an ensemble cast, and particularly to keep it going with something as beloved to horror fans as like the Evil Dead movies, you might think to yourself like, all right, is this gonna get like kind of stale after a while? It's a bittersweet thing, because they're not going to do an Ash vs. Evil Dead Season 4. I say it's bittersweet because, of course, I would love to see more of it, and Bruce Campbell seems happy to, be moving on to other things, which is, great for him, but it's still sort of like, it's just kind of a bummer, It's always a bummer when you have something that, like, you followed for a really long time, and everything ends eventually, but it's always like that last episode where you're sort of like, oh, goodbye. But I am here to say right now, and I mean, I'm going to tiptoe into some kind of spoiler territory here, so you might want to shut the video off at this point if you're not all caught up. But he faces off against Kandar, who's this ginormous fucking, like, skull demon thing. I think Kandar is supposed to be what came through the portal in Evil Dead 2, that big skull thing that, like, grabs Ash, and when his hair turns white, and then it's suddenly not white anymore again in Army of Darkness. I think that was supposed to be Kandar. But even in the old chant, when they first resurrect the Evil Dead, those were the last words of the passage. Kandar, Kandar. That's the big head Deadite. It's like the devil in the realm of the Evil Dead. I will fucking say, man, one thing that's kind of a fucking bummer is they touch on this story idea, which is, it's good. Not to toot my own horn, but it's an idea that I had that I've been kind of rolling with for a long time. In fact, I might make that a video on this channel as well, as the Hallows' Eve trilogy. It's a series of films that I did starting back in 2002 when it was my sophomore year in high school, and we were all like 15, 16 years old, just farting around with like this ancient-ass 1980s video camera. The quality is horrible. There's no beginning or end credits. The acting is atrocious. There is no script. It's edited poorly with all these fucking glitches. The sound quality is so god-awful you can't even tell what's going on half the time, and it runs for an hour and 16 minutes. Well, 10 years down the road in 2012, we did a sequel, which is where the plot point comes in, that's very similar to Ash vs. Evil Dead, about sort of a plane between the land of the living and the land of the dead, where Reaper creatures basically like harvest souls and bring them permanently to the land of the dead. I mean, it was like literally the exact plot of shit that happens in season 3 of Ash vs. Evil Dead. I'm like, fuck, everybody's gonna think I ripped it off now. You'll be able to tell by the fucking videos that I didn't. It was my idea first, damn it. But at any rate, going back to why it's bittersweet, it's sad to see them go. It's sad to see it end. You know, it's sad to know that we won't have any more, you know, Ashley J. Williams in the future. But we got to know him as a character so much more through this show and appreciate it. Also, not for nothing, it was a pretty good spot to end it. I mean, don't get me wrong, they left off for kind of like, and originally I guess they were going to do a season 4, and it was going to be kind of like a more like Mad Maxy kind of like post-apocalyptic vibe, which, I mean, hey, not for nothing could have been cool. And again, they would have kept it, you know, fresh and kind of changed it up a little bit. But again, I say it's kind of good to leave it with that cliffhanger. It's good to end it where they did, because he faced off against Kandar. And it's like, how are you gonna... It's sort of like Supernatural Season 5. Like, how are you gonna top the fucking apocalypse? How are you gonna do that? You can't, and yet they kept going anyway, and... I mean, while I still watch the show and am still entertained by it, it's just not the same. So it was really cool, even though the show didn't run as long as it probably could have. It was good beginning to end. It had, and there was at least one moment in every season that was like a total fucking gross out, and I love that. It has Sam Raimi's name all fucking over it, you know? I mean, like, Drag Me to Hell, he wanted to obviously like expand it to more of his like A-list audience maybe that went to go see Spider-Man, but also it was supposed to be a love letter to his old fans of the Evil Dead movies, but he wanted to keep it PG-13, so he had all this really disgusting shit in it that didn't violate a PG-13 rating, but it was still like really kind of gross body humor, like puke getting into your mouth or something like that. It was still really gross. And there was like at least one of that in every season of Ash versus Evil Dead, and I just fucking loved it. I love when I can like watch something and be sort of like, oh, gross. But at any rate, really cool show. If you guys are a fan of the movies, definitely watch the show. You won't be disappointed. If you haven't seen the movies, I would recommend watching them and see. Well, the first one is actually pretty serious, and then it gets a little bit more campy in the sequel, and then it's like almost a straight up comedy in the third one, which leads into Ash versus Evil Dead, which overall I would say had more of like an Evil Dead 2 vibe, because it balanced like the comedy and the horror pretty much perfectly. So at any rate, Ash vs. Evil Dead Season 3 was a triumph. It's too bad that they're not making any more, but I'm happy they made any. And Bruce Campbell, Sam Raimi, Ivan Raimi, Robert Tapert, all you guys, thank you so much for, you know, over 30 years of awesomeness. I really appreciate it.